Okay, inside the new Uber, weak coffee, vanishing perks, and fast deflating morale. All right, you guys, so this article here, we're talking about how Uber, that tech unicorn that was valued at $1 billion very quickly and took over the entire taxi market, is now coming on under a lot of heat. Chelsea, do you use Uber?
No, I don't use Uber.
Have you ever used Uber?
I have used Uber.
Okay.
But no, I don't.
I use Uber.
You've used Uber?
I've used Uber.
Okay.
It was cheaper for us to take Uber to the airport than it was to park the car for a week.
Okay, so let me read a few bits here to you. Tech IPOs have long been viewed as a boon for Silicon Valley workers, ushering in a new era of corporate stability and stock-driven wealth. That's not been the case at Uber, where the stock price has fallen roughly 30% since going public in May, and employees say they've noticed cuts to amenities as basic as the brands of coffee available for brewing. I'm going to skip down a bit here because what it talks about a lot here is that I'm going to read one major paragraph and then we'll get right into this discussion. It talks about, and I think this is one of the big points that is really hurting Uber. Here we go. Executives inside Uber have told employees that they will devote fewer costly resources to user experience and research, including teams who worked on these issues, and conduct more direct testing of in-app features for riders and drivers. We will deliberately rely less on user research for tactical features and instead rely more on experimentation. Here's the thing I was looking at. The new strategy surfaced at a product event in San Francisco on Thursday when Uber announced a redesign of its app that will place the menu of mobility and food delivery options, bikes and scooters, ride-hailing, transit, and Uber Eats all together in its effort to make Uber the operating system for your entire life. So, with that said, what do you guys see? I'll tell you what I see in this, just because I use Uber all the time. I was using it in Chicago. I was using it in Nashville. I think Uber absolutely killed it when it took over the taxi industry. No doubt about it. It was a very simple interface, and it just worked. I remember my friend, right when Uber came to Kansas City, signed up to be an Uber driver, and he's making about $2,000 a week driving Uber. He quit recently because, probably a year ago, because he said, you'd be lucky to do the same amount of work and make maybe like $300 to $400, $500. I think Uber is just, since they've gone public, spreading themselves too thin. Like in Nashville, for example, you know those scooters everybody's doing? Nashville has Lime scooters, Bird scooters, Lyft scooters, Uber scooters, and then some other orange scooter I don't know the name of. So I just think Uber's trying to get way too spread out instead of focusing on their one core business model that makes them work very well, which was...
The scooters are a different topic altogether because I think scooters are a pain in the butt. I think these cities ought to just say, no scooters. You've got bike lanes and nobody wants to use the bike lanes. But Uber needs to get back to what Uber originally was IPO'd about, and being a taxi service and not trying to be all everything to everybody.
Yeah.
I also think that public transit is, one, a lot more affordable. And when I think Uber, I think of just like special occasions. So like going to the airport or going out like for a night on the town.
Going to a football game.
Going to a football game where you don't want to have to drive.
Yeah.
I get that. Whereas like the day-to-day commute is simply just going to public transit. And I feel like that's where a lot of money is lost, obviously, because it's so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas public transit is way more cost effective for people who live in higher populated cities.
So how's that affecting their... Why do you think that would make their IPO go down 30%?
I don't know about their IPO, but I feel like it's not... People aren't using it as much, so therefore they don't find value in it.
The value of a stock, though, is based on the earnings that a company has. So if their expenses are going to be more than what their income is, the valuation is going to be reflected.
Right. Their income is being affected when people aren't using it except for those one special times.
Well, it's actually...
I don't think I mean, there's a different approach. That the reason that Uber was so successful was because you didn't have to hail a cab. You could have an Uber and you could say, okay, I'm ready for a cab. I'm ready for somebody to pick me up. You could put it on your app and you knew exactly 3 minutes from now you're going to have a driver sitting out front. You didn't have to wait in the rain. You didn't have to wait for anybody. It's going to be
And
right
it was
there.
cheaper for
The
in
problem
relation
is
to the
that
cabs.
now they try and develop an app that's not just getting a car, but now it's getting food. It's getting a
scooter or a bike.
or whatever else, and you can't be all everything. They should focus on what they're making money at,
Well,
and then expand from there, and not try and do it all at once the first time.
well, that's the
around.
argument, is that over the last 8 years or however long Uber's been around, is that they captured that market of taxi service, and now they're spreading out. But what a lot of people don't realize, in fact, here's one of the top comments, says, not shocked at all by this. Uber spent years subsidizing rides with money from venture capitalists. Now that those early investors have cashed out, they actually need to start turning a profit. Not a lot of people realize this, but Uber raised stupid amounts of money from venture capital. And they, in fact, right now, as they're a publicly traded company, they're still losing money every quarter. So yeah, now that I think that's a good comment. Now that the venture capitals are gone,
goes down if they're losing money on every quarter, because the only way the valuation of a stock goes up is if they're actually making money. At some point, you can have the investors live on the laurels of the potential of a company, but at the end of the day, a company has to show a profit.
Were they not doing a good enough job because they didn't capture all the market? Because now you have Lyft.
You know what I think really is
Lyft
going.
is now here.
I don't think Lyft is the problem. I really think that a lot of it has to do with that modern day Silicon Valley approach, where it's profits be damned, just grow, and acquire users as fast as you can with all of this venture capital money. For example, Microsoft didn't have that problem as badly, or some of these older companies from years past out of San Francisco, but it's a very modern strategy where you just acquire as many users, don't worry about the profits. But with Uber though, again, like when I was using Uber last weekend, they've got so many new features on the app, and they just keep updating the app. I just don't see why it's necessary. And here's the other part that I always question. Why are they headquartered? They said that they had 27,000 in that article. They have 27,000 employees, and they've cut over 3% of their workforce. And right now, they're starting to hire a lot more developers in parts of Asia, where it's far less expensive. Why not move your headquarters from San Francisco, the most expensive city in the world, to anywhere in the Midwest? Your costs would be half, at least half. You could still hire the same employees and pay them probably less, and they would still have a higher standard of living in that city. But I think that it's an interesting development. Uber's an amazing company and an amazing service, but it's no secret that the drivers are getting paid much, much less than they ever have before. It said there that, in fact, I'll read one last comment, and then we'll do any closing thoughts on this. This last comment here says, the perks are the canary in the coal mine. A well-funded company with an optimistic outlook on finances will splurge on the perks. They don't cost that much, and they keep the talent happy. When those start to go, you know you've got some number crunchers in the upper departments, and typically, when startup tech companies get the number crunchers influencing things more in leadership, it's because the numbers are worrying them more than the tech is. I'm sure there are a lot of feelers going out from the Uber employee pool these days, and I wouldn't be surprised if there has already been a minor exodus of high talent. So yeah, Uber has a real
problem.
A real crossroads. Are they going to keep just expanding and trying and experimenting, which they say they're going to, or are they going to pull back and just focus on what made them amazing, which was the ride taxi service? So I think one other last thing to consider about that is the new decentralized blockchain technology. Uber seems like an amazing opportunity if you don't have a central headquarters. It's constantly scraping a little bit off the bottom. If you could connect drivers to riders, but that's not what a publicly traded company makes money on. So, any last thoughts, you guys?
This all kind of falls back on the CEO to make sure that the company's going in the right direction.
Right.
Well, you know, the last CEO just got kicked. The founder CEO got kicked out of Uber for, like, I think it was sexual harassment or sexual assault.
Yeah.
and partying too much.
Right. I think the one that's in place now.
Came from Expedia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, time will tell. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.